Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about Stellar Blade. Now, this was a game that really intrigued me when it came to its release. I really like Souls-like games, action hack and slash games, so when it came to the release of this game, I was pretty intrigued to see how it would turn out. Now, obviously with the release of this game, there was some drama and controversy surrounding this game, mostly around censorship. I'm not going to go into the details about it. I'm sure you could probably, look it up for yourself. But in general, it wasn't going to stop me from playing this game. So I have completed this game, and overall, this is a great game. I really, really enjoyed it. I would say it's not all perfect by all stretches of the imagination, but I really think as an action game, a Souls-like game, if you're a fan of those genres, this is definitely a game that doesn't disappoint. Now, the biggest compliment I have to give for this game is the gameplay. The gameplay is really, really impressive. In fact, it's pretty much so responsive and very much probably one of the best Souls-like experiences I've had, because really with the action and the combat, there's so much variety you could get from this game. It really does take a lot of inspiration from various other hack and slash games, as well as Souls-like games using parry, dodge, using the sword or the blade, and utilizing different sort of combat abilities as well, such as beta experiences, as well as using bursts combat systems as well. There's a whole range. I'm not gonna kind of go into all of the details behind it because there's too much you could do. Also, with this game as well, it really does have really good level designs and really good environments that you could traverse around the game. Now, really to talk about the overall setting of this game, I really think it's a good setting and a good synopsis. So, the game kind of sets itself on Earth, a futuristic Earth, a dystopian Earth, where basically the whole of Earth is, invaded by these sort of creatures called the Naytibas. So, and it's pretty much just like an alien species that you're kind of battling across. And a lot of the enemies in this game does have a lot of variety and different abilities. They're not so linear, although sometimes you kind of get across to that sort of stage where you're kind of facing similar bosses with similar abilities for the sake of doing it, for tedious sakes. But in general, you've got a lot of enemies that you can encounter with different sort of abilities and different sort of combat features, but you have a lot of variety with the combat features that you would use in this game as well. But it's also not just the combat and the action that really stands out for this game. I also think other things that also stand out with its gameplay is just how smooth the game runs. I'm pretty surprised like how with this game I pretty much had a consistent 60 frames per second playing on the balanced mode, which I think for most players would be the most suitable settings, I would say. I tried other settings as well, prioritizing resolution and resolution and prioritizing performance. It wasn't really so much any better, to be honest with you, for my overall experience. When playing on the balanced mode, it was very much, got consistent frame rates as well as good graphics. And I was very stunned how consistent the game felt. Also, with the gameplay as well, there's also lots of progression systems you can have. So you have your main character Eve, who is pretty much the main sort of draw for this game as well. And you can also use her to have so much different abilities as well, to improve her attacks, to improve her recovery, which can include like stuff like parrying as well as HP recovery. And also stuff for beta experience, burst experience, and also other sort of abilities she would have. I'm not going to go into other details of the abilities because it actually does have some progression with the story with other characters, so I'm not going to dig deep into it, but there's a lot of options. I felt with the amount of options they would have, I felt originally the game would have felt a little bit bloated and a bit over the top, but it wasn't so much that there was, a lot of combat features that will just sort of exploit you. It's pretty much like simple combat features that they have, but it's just like additional progressions that would either increase more damage, recovery, or just, repeatability of use of these abilities. So it's just essentially just added upgrades, essentially. And they do make good use of the upgrade skill tree as well. Also with the gameplay as well, when you get into the action, there's always a consistent soundtrack that really slaps. I really love the soundtrack in this game, and it's you know, even sometimes sometimes with the soundtrack, there was a lot of repetition. It was still good to my ears, and I really, really felt the music in this game as well with the action. So I have to give massive compliments to Shift Up for actually doing that as well. Also, I almost forgot one more thing about this game that I also have to compliment. There's also a wide range of costumes you can also pick from this game to customize Eve. I went through various costumes throughout the game, and they all have such great design. And it's actually very good that the game itself will allow you to have all those features literally at launch when you play the game. Usually a lot of games you would see a lot of costumes and everything. It's usually down a paywall or just extra microtransactions just to add to the game. Usually I look at it as just Western developers are just being greedy, or game companies just want to just, you know, capitalize on more money from consumers. This game doesn't really have that. So I really honestly think that what's, you know, Shift Up have done to really make that decision and give the costume, a lot of range of costumes in the game already for players to get that hold of, I think is a really great thing. So that's just the last thing I also want to praise this game for. Now, as much as I could really praise and compliment this game, there are some issues with this game that I need to talk about. So the first thing is that the story of this game is really weak. So I mentioned earlier the synopsis of this game is pretty much set in a futuristic Earth that's been a forbidden wasteland as is taken over by a species known as the Naytibas. And you do play as Eve, who is the main character of this game. And most of the characters in this game aren't really developed very well. Even Eve, who's the main character, she's really lacks personality and real development to really understand what her true motivations are. And it really fails to bring the story up. Now, Eve does encounter other characters in this game. She encounters characters like Adam and Lily as well. And you never really notice any sort of dynamic or chemistry with them. It's very, in my view, very asinine dialogues that really, you know, build up most of the interactions and the chemistry between them. So it's a very weak on a story front, but also because of the fact there's not really much room for development to really focus on the characters. So this is really one side of the game that really does fall short. I really didn't want to really point this out for this game because I think a lot of the game itself is really good, but unfortunately throughout most of my experience playing this game and really just wanted to get hooked onto the story as well as the characters, it did throw me off. And it did feel like they were trying to push for characters in a sense to really understand, but you never really get to understand who they are, their feelings, their motivation, and how it really develops altogether. I think throughout the game, I really could say that I never really felt for any character that I felt truly on the side, because there wasn't really development there to really sort of, you know, give the experience that I would have wanted, or really to understand the true story within itself. So that's really the only major complaint I have for this game. Another minor thing I'm going to point out is that the game does have a lot of camps that you can use in this game for fast travel, as well as just recovering full health, as well as bringing up your HP and everything else. And the enemies will respawn like other Souls-like games would do. But the issue is that there are some camps and areas throughout the game that you can't actually fast travel to. And sometimes when you're kind of going back in between regions, you have to go to certain locations to go back to. So, for example, if you want to change regions, you have to go all the way back to the main part, the first part of the region of the game to get to. And you would have to find a specific camp that you could allow yourself to fast travel to within certain regions, or get back to the first part of the regions to get to another region. It's very tedious to go through. I wish they would have actually made more use of fast traveling to actually exploring the regions more effortless, and you don't have to go through tedious sections of the game to just unlock loot boxes, which in my view didn't really get so much rewards. It's a very minor thing because I didn't really did that so much of the game. Most of it was purely based on just doing some stories and some side quests. And also another thing as well, when I completed the game, the side quests do determine the ending as well. I didn't really realize that when I nearly got to the end of the game to determine what ending it would have been. So it's one thing that I will point out. But also when you complete the game, you do have options for New Game Plus and also a new hard mode difficulty. I will say normal was actually pretty challenging. So when you especially get to the later parts of the game, playing on normal was tough. So I can't imagine how much more difficult hard would be. And certainly for New Game Plus, you do get more progression for more upgrades and skills as well that you can also use as well. So it does make up for a lot of those things that I might have complaints for. But in general, I think this is a great game. I really didn't feel disappointed with it. I almost felt like I had a good experience playing it as well, and certainly all the promotional trailers and everything that, you know, showcased this game, it definitely lived up the expectations. So overall, if I have to rate Stellar Blade, I'm going to give the game an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the game. It's great. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, there's a lot of things I could really praise this for. Hopefully, maybe what Shift Up will do with this franchise, I really wish that they could put more attention to actually building the character story and actually making more efforts for the narrative and building character development. I think that's the real main drawback I have. But overall, gameplay wise, it's a lot of fun. And certainly if you're into Souls-like games or action games, I would definitely recommend it. So yeah, let me know what you think of Stellar Blade if you have played it or not. Please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you for watching. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.